Good morning. Happy Monday to everyone. As always, I'd like to thank Jay for being here to interpret. I just do want to say that this week is National Interpreters Appreciation Week. Wednesday's the day, but we're not going to be here Wednesday. So I want to thank Jay. And so Vicki is here too, and she helps with the interpreting. So many of you might not realize Jay cannot hear what I'm saying, and so I project to Vicki. Vicki signs to Jay, and Jay signs out to the cameras and to the broader community. And so it's a process, and it has made me talk slower, which is good. But it's really something to watch, and such an important thing for folks in the community who are deaf. So I just want to thank both Vicki and Jay today for being here, and thank you for all you do year-round for the entire community. We all value your service. All right, we're going to start with the numbers. Talked to the Health Commissioner, Greg Kesterman, this morning. So we have 1,380 positive cases of COVID-19 in Hamilton County. 282 of those individuals are hospitalized, and the death count is up to 80. The deltas since Friday are for positive cases 162. For hospitalized individuals, it's 15, and for deaths, it's 9. So as you can see, it's not a huge spike, but we are still inching up as we go. 309 individuals in the Hamilton County jurisdiction have recovered. So as testing is expanded, we are expecting the number of cases of positive to go up. We will also be watching the hospitalization numbers to track trends. Meanwhile, it's only natural that we feel energized by the moves to reopen the economy, but we can't be lulled into a sense of false security. Our neighbors are still contracting the virus, they are still being hospitalized, and they are still dying from this disease. So what does that mean? It means we need to continue to be diligent, to wash our hands, to wear masks when we leave home, and stay at home if we can. Continue to do those things. So today we've got a couple of very important topics. So we have talked about the county reopening and what that looks like. And so Jeff Aluto, the county administrator, is here to talk about that. The opening is unique from building to building, from department to department, much like our revenue reduction was unique from department to department. And so that is also going to play out now as we start to reopen the services of the county. Some of them, as you know, JFS in particular, never really shut down. People were just working from home and were working in the field, not coming and congregating at the county buildings. So Jeff is going to elaborate a little bit on that, talk a little look to the past of, how many folks have been furloughed, how that is going, and then how we are going to open up. And then we're also going to be joined by Hamilton County Treasurer Rob Gehring. He has an announcement that he is going to make this morning, but we're going to start with the county administrator, Jeff Aluto.
Thank you, Madam President. So first, as you indicated, I do just want to start by thanking all the, as I typically do, all the county employees who continue to do great work just over this time, making sure that public services are provided to the citizens of Hamilton County. Many of these employees are sacrificing right now, as are employees throughout a lot of different areas of our economy. I know that we have at least 400 employees at this point on either furlough or experiencing some sort of salary reduction, et cetera. And so we're creeping close to roughly a quarter of the general fund workforce experiencing some sort of sacrifice in that manner. So I do want to thank all Hamilton County employees and all public employees for the critical work that they continue to do during this time. As Commissioner Dreihaus indicated, though, with the governor's order, we're beginning the process of starting to look at reopening the operations of the county to the residents of Hamilton County. And as she indicated, this is going to be a gradual process. It's going to be a process that depends very much on the specific county operation. As many folks who deal with the county know, county government is more like a conglomerate, and it exists under a set of separately elected officials, and it responds to different areas of the Ohio Revised Code, state law, and federal law. So the nature of the services provided are just so varied that you're not going to see just a one opening strategy. It's going to be very different depending upon the department or the building of the county that you're talking about. But we know, I can say that all of the departments, agencies, and elected officials of the county recognize the importance of attempting to do this in a way that is in sync with the community coming back to life again and the reopening of our economy. So for starters, I would encourage, as of today, residents to go to hamiltoncountyOhio.org/HC reopens, where we will provide a central repository of information on the best way to keep track of the various departments in the county and what they are doing to reopen their services over this time, and the best way to interact with those departments over the time. Now, if you're very familiar with a specific county office, for example, if you do business with the recorder's office routinely and you're used to going to their website, by all means continue going to their website to make sure that you're getting information. But through that central repository, hamiltoncountyOhio.org/HC reopens, we will be keeping that updated as a central repository for information on how to best stay abreast of all of these changes. And as I said, that's going to be different by department or agency. So for example, probate court, we know today is going to start conducting some in-person hearings again, subject to many of the health provisos that we are now getting used to, that, you know, if the party is ill or if the party has someone at home who is COVID-19 positive, those hearings are likely to be continued, et cetera. So people that are involved in these hearings will want that specific information. People applying for marriage licenses through probate court are going to want that information during this time. So again, they can go to the probate court's website, or they can go to this central repository to be connected to probate court and to learn the information there. We know that common pleas in municipal courts have issued an order continuing to limit court facilities to those necessary to conducting critical court operations and proceedings. So there continue to be limitations on the types of matters that will be processed in the courts and the persons that can attend. Similarly, many buildings are going to remain closed to the general public over the course of the next several weeks as we start the reopening process. But the availability of online and remote services have continued to improve and be enhanced over this time. And so that should satisfy a lot of our customers' needs. So for example, in the building we're in today, the County Administration Building, or the Todd B. Portune Center for County Government, will continue to be closed to the general public for the time being, but many of our departments have done an excellent job of making sure that resources are available online and that people can access those services remotely. So for example, many documents needing to be filed with the recorder can be filed online through our e-file process. The recorder's office has many property records available online, as does the auditor and the engineer. So if you need to do business with a specific department, first place to go would be online to make sure that you can do that online. For example, many of our building permits applications can be downloaded online and then can either be mailed in, or if you have to come down to the building, they can be dropped off in a bin in a centralized location in the clerk's title office, which has a separate entrance off of Court Street here downtown. So many of our offices continue to take steps forward in terms of offering their services remotely. You don't need to come down to the building to access those services. A word about JFS, because so many of our residents have the need for services offered through Job and Family Services. First of all, for many of those services, again, you don't need to come downtown. So if you want to apply, renew, or make changes for cash, food, or medical assistance, you can call 1-844-640-6446. Again, that's 1-844-640-6446 to talk to someone about those changes. If you need to file for unemployment or check on unemployment benefits, that's actually not something we do here in the county, but we work through the state. The best place to do that is unemployment.ohio.gov. It's the best place to get fed into that system. And please, as we're going through this time, let's not forget about some of those in our community who are most vulnerable. So let's not forget about Child Protective Services. That number continues to be 241 kids. And for Adult Protective Services, the number remains 421 life. So again, we encourage residents to go to hamiltoncountyohio.org/HC reopens for a central point to access information on Hamilton County departments, and we'll continue to make more information available as this reopening process continues. So with that, Commissioner Dreihaus, I'll turn it back to you.
Did you talk about the internally? So for those of us that work in this building, just to give you an example of kind of our approach here, which is opening, but cautiously opening. So when we're in our offices, we don't have to wear a mask, but as we move out of our space into a more common space, walk a hallway, maybe not interact with someone in close proximity, but still pass by, then we're wearing masks. And so that is kind of the tone of the county reopening, where it's cautious. We know eventually, we are going to be spending more time interacting with people in these buildings. We are still taking a very cautious approach, trying to keep distance and wear a mask if we are leaving our own office and moving again into a common space. In the courthouse, you have to have a mask on as you enter the courthouse, and your temperature will be taken as you enter the courthouse as well. So just a heads up there. So I'm going to turn it over to the treasurer, Rob Gehring. He has an announcement to make this morning.
Thank you, Commissioner Dreihaus. First off, I would like to thank the leadership of the Hamilton County Commissioners through this very difficult time. I'd also like to thank the leadership of all the various elected office holders who have struggled with their budget, who've struggled with social distancing, who've struggled in many ways. And the citizens of Hamilton County, I can tell you, have been well served by the leadership during these very unique times. As the Hamilton County Treasurer, today I'm announcing that we are going to move the real estate tax collection due date to July 17th, 2020. The original due date for real estate taxes in Hamilton County was June 22nd, and so we are moving the due date for real estate taxes until July 17th. This decision was made based on several factors. First off, obviously, getting to the Hamilton County Treasurer's office right now is impossible because the building is closed. As we approach the tax collection date, we need to be sure that our building is open and available to taxpayers. The second thing that we take into consideration is the fact that these real estate taxes fund our very critical functions. The real estate taxes fund the schools, the zoo, local governments, police and fire departments. And so we make this extension. It's not an easy choice to make. But the tax collection due date is now July 17th. We anticipate that approximately June 22nd, we will mail the tax bills out. And so people will have almost an entire month. We will try to get them in their hands with a July 17, that's a Friday, and that's going to be the due date for the real estate tax collection. So with that having been said, again, thanks to your leadership, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Treasurer. And the Treasurer is obviously one of those elected officials that has had to reduce his budget during this time. So thank you for the work that you've done and the other electeds throughout the county. Bridget, we are ready for questions.
Our first question comes from Jay Hanselman with WVXU News.
Hi there. I'm not sure if this question would be better for Rob or for Jeff, but with delaying the due date to July 17th for the property taxes, does that create any cash flow issues for the county or even these agencies that will be getting these tax revenues?
Thanks, Jay. It's a good question. So I think that yes, there are cash flow implications to the timing of receipt. I think for what we're talking about right now, I think that's there should not be dramatic implications for moving it a couple of weeks. If we were talking several months, I think we would be in a different situation. But we're looking at that, and we'll stay abreast of that. But I don't think for the amount of time we're talking about that there's going to be a significant implication.
And then this question probably is for the treasurer. What about folks who may still have difficulty? You know, they're saying, I can't pay my full bill on June the 22nd. July 17th gives me a month. I'm not sure that's going to help me a whole lot. What options are available for those folks who may need a little bit more time than even July 17th?
So what we're encouraging all the taxpayers in the county to do is to plan on July 17th due date. After that, there is statutory penalties and interest set by the Ohio Revised Code. And so we're kind of giving an early heads up that this is going to be the due date. Obviously, we are going to try to limit access to our office. Right now, obviously, there's no access to our office. As we start opening up, we're going to encourage people with specific taxpayer-related issues to reach out to the treasurer by email, call the office. We still do have staff answering telephones, to mail payments in. You don't have to come down to a cashier. We've made it easy with a drop box in the front of the county administration building. You can do online credit card payments, and so we're trying to make it as easy as possible to pay these taxes in the comfort of your own home. Thank you, Jay.
That's all I've got.
Treasurer, we got another question for you from Andrew Setters with WLWT Channel 5.
Hi, good morning. Wondering if you could talk a little bit about how difficult it was to make that decision to delay. You know, we are dealing with two crises. The county's got its budget crisis, and individual families have their own budget crisis.
Exactly. And thank you for that question, because office holders are elected to make difficult decisions, and this decision is a balancing act. We have to balance the needs financially of the county and the needs of individual taxpayers, and we have to balance that against the reality that right now with this crisis you can't actually get to the treasurer's office. And so unique situations we're just unable to deal with. We foresee that the building is going to be open here forthwith, that we will be able to use this extra time for the July 17th due date to make arrangements with individual taxpayers and not hurt the overall governments that depend on this money. And so that's the balancing act that we've had to initiate.
Is that the big issue that's caused the delay, the fact that the building is not open right now?
It is clearly one of the factors and an important factor that we had to take into consideration.
Our next question is for you, Treasurer, from Chris Wederick with the Business Courier.
Morning, Chris.
Thanks. Good morning. Thank you. Two questions, Treasurer. The first is, in order to waive those penalties, would it take an act of the state legislature if people end up having to pay late because of the COVID crisis? And the second question is, the the delay for you, will that also mean a 3 or 4 week delay for local governments who are depending on the property taxes?
Yes, thank you. So the delay is going to mean that the inflows of the tax money will be delayed. And that's the hardest part of pushing back the collection. And so the county residents are happy and the governments are concerned. And so this is not a simple choice. By announcing it today, I'm hoping that everyone will now plan on a July 17th, 2020 real estate tax due date. We will not have a delinquency issue. It would require legislation to change any penalties or interest for payment of late taxes. We don't hope that that has to occur. What we hope is that this announcement gives people time to plan, and we also have other internal means. For example, someone who misses the July 17th due date, they pay their real estate taxes late, they are faced with a penalty. There are particular forms that we have if you have a medical emergency and that causes you to be late. There are some other internal mechanisms to waive penalties and interest.
Thank you, Chris. Our next question is for you, Commissioner, and it comes from Jay Hansman, WVXU.
Hi, Denise. I didn't want you to feel left out. We haven't asked this question probably for a week about this issue of flexibility with the $142 million of money that you've got from the federal government. Any update this morning on that flexibility?
We're still working on it. I am more optimistic today, though, than I was last week. I did get a call over the weekend related to what's happening in the Senate. And so, as you know, Senator Portman and Senator Brown, in a bipartisan way, are pressing hard to make sure that local governments can use some of those dollars for revenue replacement, whether it's part of the 142 that we've already received, which would be great. But for others that didn't get that allocation, they need some dollars with that flexibility. And so we've joined the county commissioners and the mayors in Ohio and Kentucky and all over the country have joined forces to say, we need this relief. We need it as quickly as possible. And so I'm hearing there's some movement on that, and so I'm guardedly optimistic about this, but we have some really strong advocates, especially in Ohio and in Kentucky, to be fair. Some of the county executives in Kentucky that I've spoken with are pushing really hard, so fingers crossed. I do want to say something about the property tax relief, and so as you can see, and I think this is typical of the county and how the county responds to things, this is a very measured approach. It is for a specific time that is not months long, but a month long. And so it will provide the kind of relief I think people need in recognition that as Ohio starts to open up, Hamilton County starts to open up, and people start to go back to work, they are then in a better position to pay their property taxes. And that's really what this is about, is providing the relief to the taxpayers who haven't been working. And so it's a measured approach. There are negative impacts. Obviously, we'll have a month delay there. Property tax for the county budget is about 15 to 16% of the overall revenue picture. So it's not the top thing, but it's still there in the mix, and others are impacted too, like the schools. So it's a very measured approach to this idea that we need to provide some relief to the taxpayers and not put those that rely on property tax in too much of a difficult financial situation. So, Rob, that's kind of, I know what your message is. So again, it's this balancing act between all of the needs and our response to that. Thank you, Jay. It appears that concludes our questions from reporters in the Zoom.
We did get a question before this from Fox 19's Teresa Weaver. She got some social media posts about an event that was held at Edgewater Sports in Cleves. The video shows pretty large numbers of people, and there was a complaint filed. Can you comment on that?
Hold on one second. I have a statement actually from the health commissioner, Greg Custerman, because I asked him about this morning. This evidently happened over the weekend. And so he says, Hamilton County Public Health received several complaints this morning regarding an event that occurred at Edgewater Motorsports Track on May 3rd. From the video reviewed, the track was operating in violation of the Director of Health's Stay Safe Ohio order that took effect on May 1st. Hamilton County Public Health will be following up with the facility and issuing a notice of violation. So that's the official statement on what happened over the weekend. My personal take on this is that, look, we're all trying to safely get back to some kind of normal life. So, I don't mean to sound trite, but we're all in this together, and we don't want to have to do this twice. And so it's on all of us to act in a responsible way and take into consideration that while you're at an event, and I saw some photos and some video of this event, there was not safe distancing at this event. Masks were not being worn at this event. So it not only impacts the individuals that are there, but all of the people then that they interact with. We're all going to the grocery store. We're all pumping gas. So I just want to say that I'm hoping that people will recognize that it's about us and what we are doing and who we are interacting. But then as we move out, and if we're not wearing a mask and we're getting close to one another, there are impacts there because so many people are asymptomatic, especially younger people. And then we're transmitting the disease to those at risk. So this is what we should be thinking about as we go out. I don't like wearing the mask. But I went grocery shopping this weekend and I wore a mask. This is what we're doing for one another. I'm really concerned about folks that are the older folks in our community. I'm really worried about my mom. I continue to be, talking to my mom at a distance outside. Look, this is just what we're doing. So I think that it is unfortunate that some folks are not taking this as seriously as others. They were in violation. So I leave it to the local law enforcement and to public health to follow up. But we do need to be diligent, and we are in this together. So that's my message out. Thanks for the question. All right, are we finished? All right, thank you to the Administrator, Jeff Aludo, the County Treasurer, Rob Gehring, for being here this morning. Have a good day. Thank you.